I recorded a video a couple of days ago about growing a social media following and feeling completely lost in that process. I'll cut straight to the chase. I read this book, Post to Profits by Simon Mitchell. I really recommend this book. He's obviously a smart guy and he has read every marketing giant's books, it seems, Russell Brunson, Dan Kennedy, etc. So you know you're in good hands with him because he's got a good overview of the landscape and different strategies. He gives the overview of different types of funnels and lead magnets and sales pages. It's really comforting, I guess, for me in the middle of this process where I've invested money in a coach to help me with growing the social media following, and I don't know whether what she's telling me to do is correct or incorrect. So what's the point? The point is, when you're in business, there's talk about outsourcing what you're not good at. But in my opinion, you absolutely need to balance that with, I think you either go one of two ways. You either completely outsource it and trust it to someone, and there is risk involved in that because you don't know whether they're doing the right thing or not. The other way is to try and get an overview of the process, the thing that you're outsourcing or trusting to a coach or a subcontractor. Try and get an overview of the process so you at least can understand the vernacular, the language, what the map should look like. Now there is a caveat to that there is more than one way of doing things. So if the method you're reading seems to make sense to you and the coach is using another method, that doesn't necessarily mean that other method is wrong. So you could have that conversation and say, and this is what I'm going to do, have that conversation with your coach or whoever you're hiring to do this work for you and say, listen, I've read this stuff, I trust you. Got to be careful how you have the conversation, of course. You don't want to come across as if you're researching out of distrust in them, but have that conversation. I've read this book, this guy seems pretty smart. He's saying to do it this and this and this way. What do you think about that? Obviously, I trust you and your method. And see what they say. One thing that really jumped out to me, and it's the number one thing he talks about, and to me it makes sense as being the first step, is you must identify who your target customer is, who your client is. What is their problem? What is their pain point? That's the very, very first step. If you don't know what that is, then how can you put relevant social media content out that will speak to your client? How can you construct an offer which will appeal to your client? And then if you can't construct an offer, if you can't put content out that appeals to the client and you can't construct an offer that appeals to the client, you have no sales and you have no money and the business will die. So all of that to say, really, I think you either go one of two ways. Growing social media, I think in business, to take a step back from it all, a lot of the time you feel totally lost. Growing a social media following is hard. It's got more competitive, you'll not get traction, and you either completely outsource it and trust the person, or you try and educate yourself so you at least have an idea about accounting and taxes. I hope this video helps.